The muddy waters of the Volta River swallowed Akojua whole, her wedding dress billowing like a white ghost beneath the surface. Above her, Mama Efua's face twisted with satisfaction as she watched her stepdaughter disappear into the rushing current. "That's what you get for stealing my son from me," she whispered, brushing dirt from her hands. "But what you're about to hear will shock you to your core. If you think you know how far a wicked stepmother will go, think again. Hit that subscribe button, because this story gets darker than you can imagine." 3 hours earlier, Akojua had been the happiest woman in Kumasi. Her wedding to Kwame had been perfect. The entire village celebrated as she married the man she'd loved since childhood. The ceremony at the old Presbyterian church had left everyone in tears of joy. Everyone except Mama Efua. "You don't deserve him." Efua had hissed her in the reception, gripping Akojua's wrist so tight it left marks. "I raised that boy alone after his father died. No little village girl is going to take him from me." Akojua should have seen the warning signs. The poisoned food that made her sick for weeks. The way Mama Efua convinced Kwame that his new wife was trying to bewitch their family. The mysterious fires that kept destroying Akojua's belongings. Now, as darkness claimed the river and the wedding guests searched frantically with lanterns, Mama Efua played the grieving mother perfectly. "She must have slipped on the rocks," she sobbed into Kwame's shoulder. "I tried to grab her, but the current was too strong. My poor daughter-in-law." The lies flowed from her tongue like honey, each word designed to break her son's heart while hiding her own crime. Kwame fell to his knees by the riverbank, his wedding suit torn and muddy from diving again and again into the black water. "Akojua! Akojua!" But the river kept its secrets, and by morning, the search party had given up hope. What they didn't know was that Akojua's body had washed up 15 miles downstream, in a fishing village where an old woman named Nana Alma pulled her from the reeds. "Child, the spirits have saved you for a reason," Nana Alma whispered as she pumped water from Akojua's lungs. "But everyone you know thinks you're dead. What will you do with this gift?" Akojua's eyes opened, filled with a rage that would burn for 10 long years. She remembered everything. Mama Efua's hands on her back, the satisfied smile, the calculated push that sent her tumbling to what should have been her death. "I'll make her pay," she whispered, her voice hoarse from the river water. "I'll make them all pay." Nana Alma's ancient face cracked into a knowing smile. "Then your real education begins now, child. Revenge is a dish best served with patience. Will Akojua's thirst for revenge consume her, or will justice finally be served? The answer will leave you speechless. Don't forget to like this video and hit the notification bell, because what happens next will change everything you thought you knew about family betrayal. The successful businesswoman walking through the glass doors of the Golden Tulip Hotel. In Accra bore no resemblance to the village girl who had supposedly drowned a decade ago. Akojua Mensah, her new identity carefully crafted with Nana Alma's help, commanded attention in her tailored suit and designer heels. But beneath the polished exterior, her heart still burned with the memory of betrayal. You won't believe how completely she transformed herself, and the plan she's about to set in motion will leave you on the edge of your seat. "Mrs. Mensah, the files you requested." Her assistant handed her a thick folder. Inside were 10 years of careful investigation, photographs, financial records, and detailed surveillance reports on her former family. Kwame had never remarried. He'd spent years searching for her body, haunted by guilt and grief. He'd grown thin and hollow-eyed, throwing himself into his cocoa farming business to escape the pain. The thriving young man she'd married had become a shadow of himself. But Mama Efua had thrived. Using Kwame's insurance payout from Akojua's death, she'd invested in real estate and become one of Kumasi's most successful property dealers. She lived in a mansion now, drove expensive cars, and wore gold jewelry that caught the sun like fire. "She's getting rich off my supposed death," Akojua murmured, studying recent photos of Efua at charity gala. How perfectly fitting. The plan had taken years to develop. First, she needed to become someone new, someone with enough power and money to destroy her enemies. Nana Alma had connections throughout West Africa, people who owed favors and asked no questions. A new birth certificate, university records, business licenses, all carefully constructed. Then came the education. Business school in Lagos, investment banking in London, She'd learned to speak like them, think like them, and most importantly, to beat them at their own game. Her phone buzzed. "The meeting is confirmed for tomorrow," her private investigator reported. Efua Asani will be there to discuss selling her Kumasi properties. She has no idea who's really behind the offer. Akojua's reflection smiled back from the hotel window, cold, calculating, beautiful. Tomorrow, she would sit across from the woman who murdered her and begin the careful destruction of everything Efua held dear. But first, she needed to see Kwame. The drive to Kumasi took 3 hours, each mile bringing back memories she'd buried deep. When she finally saw him from across the market square, her breath caught in her throat. He was buying yam from the same vendor they'd visited together as teenagers, but his shoulders were bent with invisible weight. Gray streaked his hair at 32. The laughter lines around his eyes had been replaced by deep furrows of permanent sadness. "He's been mourning me for 10 years, she whispered to herself, feeling an unexpected stab of guilt. A young woman approached Kwame, pretty gentle-looking, carrying a baby. Akojua watched as Kwame smiled the first time, taking the child with obvious affection. The woman touched his arm intimately, and Akojua felt her carefully constructed composure crack. "So you didn't find someone after all," she breathed, jealousy surging through her veins like poison. Her phone rang. "Mrs. Mensah? There's been a development. Efua Asani has a son." The words hit her like a physical blow. "What did you say?" "She adopted a boy 2 years after the incident. He's 8 now. Lives with her in the mansion." Akojua's grip tightened on the phone. Mama Efua had replaced her entirely, taken her son's grief money to build a new family, a new life, while Kwame suffered alone. The rage that had sustained her for 10 years crystallized into something harder, more focused. "Double the surveillance," she ordered. "I want to know everything about that child, the woman with Kwame, and every property Efua owns. It's time to begin. The trap is set, but who will be caught in it? The web of revenge Akojua is about to weave will destroy innocent lives. But can she stop herself before she becomes the very monster she's hunting? Smash that like button if you're as shocked as I am, and keep watching because the confrontation you've been waiting for is coming next. Mrs. Asani, please have a seat. My employer will be with you shortly." Mama Efua settled into the leather chair, her gold bracelets clinking as she adjusted her expensive handbag. The Lagos office screamed money. Floor-to-ceiling windows, imported furniture, original artwork. Whoever wanted to buy her Kumasi properties certainly had deep pockets. What happens next will leave you absolutely stunned. If you're not already subscribed, do it now, because you won't want to miss a single second of this confrontation. The door opened, and Efua looked up with her practiced business smile. It died on her lips. Standing before her was a ghost. Older, more polished, wearing power like armor, but unmistakably the woman she'd pushed into the Volta River 10 years ago. "Hello, Mama Efua," Akojua said softly, moving to sit behind a massive desk. "Did you miss me?" The blood drained from Efua's face. Her hands began to shake, the gold jewelry suddenly feeling heavy as chains. You're dead. I saw you drown." "No," Akojua corrected, her voice deadly calm. "You saw me fall. There's a difference." Efua's mind raced, calculating. 10 years of built-up guilt and paranoia crashed over her like a wave. She'd had nightmares about this moment, waking up screaming Akojua's name. "I don't know what game you're playing," Efua stammered, trying to regain control. "But Kwame thinks you're dead. The whole village mourned you." "Yes, they did, including my husband, who never stopped loving me while you got rich off my death benefits." Akojua opened a file on her desk. "Interesting how quickly you invested that insurance money. Almost like you've been planning it." The accusation hung in the air like smoke. Efua's eyes darted to the door, but Akojua's security team blocked the exit. "What do you want?" Efua whispered. "Justice." Akojua stood and walked to the window, her back to her stepmother. "You took 10 years of my life. 10 years of my marriage, 10 years of happiness. You made my husband suffer while you prospered from my supposed death. He was my son first." Efua exploded, her composure finally cracking. "I sacrificed everything to raise him after his father died. Then you came along with your pretty smile and your young body, and suddenly I meant nothing to him. So you decided I should die? I decided you should disappear. The words came out in a rush of long-suppressed rage. I never meant for you to actually. I just wanted you gone. Akojua turned slowly, her eyes glittering with cold satisfaction. There it is, the confession I've been waiting 10 years to hear. Only then did Efua notice the small recording device on the desk, its red light blinking steadily. You recorded me? Panic rose in her voice. I recorded you admitting to attempted murder, insurance fraud, and destruction of a family. Akojua picked up the device, holding it like a weapon. This goes to the police, unless you do exactly what I say. Efua's knees buckled. She gripped the chair arms to keep from falling. What do you want me to do? Transfer every property you own back to Kwame. Every business, every investment, every sati you made from my death money. I can't. I have debts, obligations. There's Samuel to think about. Ah, yes, the boy you adopted with my husband's grief money. Akojua's smile was razor-sharp. Don't worry about Samuel. I have special plans for him. The threat was implicit, but clear. Efua's protective instincts flared. Leave the child out of this. He's innocent. So was I when you pushed me into that river. So was Kwame when you destroyed his marriage. So were all the people your lies hurt over the years. Akojua returned to her desk, pulling out legal documents. You have 72 hours to sign these property transfers, or I go to the police with the recording and the evidence of your insurance fraud. Efua stared at the papers with shaking hands. Her empire, built over 10 years of careful investment and networking, would crumble in 3 days. And if I refuse, then you'll spend the rest of your life in solemn prison, and Samuel will grow up knowing his adoptive mother is a murderer. Akojua leaned back in her chair. Choose wisely, Mama Efua. For once in your life, choose wisely. But as Efua stumbled from the office, clutching the documents that would destroy her, neither woman noticed a young man in the hallway who'd heard every word. Samuel Asante, now 8 years old but wise beyond his years, had followed his adoptive mother to Lagos out of concern. What he'd overheard would change everything. The revenge is in motion, but an innocent child is about to be caught in the crossfire. Will Akojua's thirst for vengeance destroy the very family she's tried to protect? Like this video if you're as hooked as I am. And don't go anywhere, because the most shocking twist is still coming. Samuel's small fingers trembled as he dialed the number he'd memorized from his mother's phone. 3 rings, then a familiar voice answered. Uncle Kwame? It's Samuel. Mama is in trouble, and there's something you need to know about your wife. You're about to witness a revelation that will shatter everything you thought you knew about this story. If you're not already subscribed, hit that button now, because what happens next will blow your mind. 12 hours later, Kwame stood outside Akojua's Lagos hotel, his heart hammering against his ribs. The boy's words had ripped open wounds he'd spent 10 years trying to heal. His wife was alive. His mother had tried to kill her. Everything he believed about his life was a lie. When the elevator doors opened to reveal the woman he'd mourned every day for a decade, Kwame's knees almost buckled. Akojua. Her name came out as a broken whisper. She stood there in a silk robe, her hair longer now, her face harder but still achingly beautiful. For a moment, neither spoke. Then Kwame stepped forward, reaching out to touch her face as if she might disappear. Don't, she said, stepping back. You lost that right when you let her destroy our marriage. I thought you were dead. The anguish in his voice filled the hallway. I searched for you for months. I never stopped looking. But you did stop waiting. Her voice was ice. I saw you with her. Your new woman, your new family. Kwame's confusion was genuine. What woman? Akojua. There's been no one else. There's never been anyone else. Don't lie to me. The careful control she maintained for years began to crack. I saw you in the market with a woman and a baby. I saw how you touched her, how you smiled. Understanding dawned in Kwame's eyes. That was Amma, my sister's daughter. She brings her son to visit me sometimes because he reminds me of... He swallowed hard. Of the children we wanted to have together. The words hit Akoja like a physical blow. She'd built her entire plan for revenge on false assumptions, letting jealousy poison her observations. But the boy said, "Samuel is smart beyond his years, but he's still a child. He heard your threats against him and called me because he's scared." Kwame took another step closer. "Akoja, please. My mother may have done terrible things, but destroying her won't bring back what we lost. She tried to murder me." The rage erupted from deep inside her. "She pushed me into that river and left me to die. Then she got rich off my death while you suffered. And you think I didn't suffer enough?" Kwame's own anger flared. "You think losing you was easy? I haven't slept a full night in 10 years. I see your face in every crowd, hear your voice in every song. You want to know what your death did to me?" He rolled up his sleeves, revealing scars along his forearms. Thin, deliberate lines that spoke of deep despair. Akoja's breath caught. "Kwame, no." "3 times, he said quietly. 3 times I tried to join you, because living without you was worse than dying. My mother found me each time, got me help. She may have done an evil thing, but she saved my life afterward." The revelation shattered something inside Akoja. Her carefully constructed narrative of Efua prospering, while Kwame moved on, crumbled in the face of his pain. "Why didn't you tell Samuel the truth?" she whispered. "Because he's 8 years old and he loves the only mother he's known. Because destroying her would destroy him too." Kwame moved closer, and this time she didn't step away. "Because revenge isn't the answer, my love. It never was." But before she could respond, her phone rang. Her assistant's voice was urgent. "Mrs. Mensah, there's been an incident. Efua Asani tried to kill herself an hour ago. She's in the hospital, and the boy is asking for you." The phone slipped from Akoja's hands, clattering to the floor. "What have I done?" she whispered, the full weight of her actions crushing down on her. "What have I become?" Kwame caught her as her legs gave way, holding her for the first time in 10 years as she broke down completely. "We have to go to her," she sobbed into his chest. "I've become the very monster I was trying to destroy." But as they rushed to the hospital, neither of them knew that Mama Efua's suicide attempt was about to reveal the darkest secret of all, one that would change everything they thought they knew about the night by the river. The truth is about to come out, and it's more shocking than anything you could imagine. The real villain in this story isn't who you think it is. Make sure you're subscribed and hit that notification bell, because the final chapter will leave you speechless. The hospital corridor smelled of disinfectant and despair. Outside Mama Efua's room, Samuel sat in a chair too big for his small frame, his eyes red from crying. She kept saying, I didn't mean to, he whispered to Akoja and Kwame. Then she took all those pills. The final truth is about to be revealed, and it will change everything you thought you knew about this story. Make sure you're watching till the very end, because this twist will leave you absolutely speechless. Inside the hospital room, Efua lay pale and broken, for tubes snaking from her arms. When she saw Akoja, fresh tears spilled down her cheeks. I'm sorry, she whispered, her voice barely audible. I'm so sorry for everything. Mama Efua just rests. No. The word came out with surprising force. You need to know the truth. All of it. Kwame took Akoja's hand as they sat beside the bed. After 10 years of lies and pain, they were finally going to hear what really happened that night. I didn't push you, Efua began, her eyes fixed on the ceiling. I went to the river to talk to you. Yes, I was angry, jealous, desperate, but I never laid a hand on you. Akoja's heart stopped. But I remember... You remember falling. But not why. Efua turned her head toward them, her face etched with a decade of guilt. When I found you by the river, you were already unconscious, already bleeding. The room fell silent, except for the steady beep of medical machines. Someone else was there? Kwame asked, his voice tight. Efua nodded slowly. Pastor Osei. He was standing over you with a rock in his hand, mumbling about cleansing the village of witchcraft. You'd rejected his advances months earlier, and he'd been telling people you were cursed. The revelation hit like lightning. Pastor Osei, the man who performed their wedding ceremony, who'd led the search parties, who'd comforted the grieving family. When he saw me coming, he dropped the rock and ran. You were unconscious, bleeding from your head, lying too close to the riverbank. The ground was soft from the rains. Efua's voice broke. I tried to pull you back, but the mud gave way. You slipped into the water, and I couldn't swim well enough to save you. Akosia felt the world tilting. So you let everyone believe you pushed me? I panicked. I thought no one would believe me. Pastor Osei was respected, and I was just a bitter mother-in-law. When you disappeared, I convinced myself it was better to stay quiet. Efua sobbed. But the insurance money, the guilt, I couldn't spend a single Sadie without remembering your face. That's why you adopted Samuel, Kwame realized. You were trying to save a child to make up for the one you couldn't save. I found him abandoned at the church. Pastor Osei said his parents didn't want him, but now I know. Efua looked at Samuel through the glass partition where he sat waiting. I think the pastor was selling children. I think Samuel's parents never abandoned him at all. The final piece of the puzzle fell into place with sickening clarity. Pastor Osei hadn't just been a would-be killer. He'd been running an illegal adoption ring, taking children from poor families and selling them to wealthy couples who asked no questions. We have to stop him, Akosia said, standing up with new purpose. He's still out there, still hurting people. The evidence is in my safe at home, Efua whispered. Birth certificates, payments, everything. I've been gathering proof for years, trying to find the courage to speak up. As if summoned by their conversation, a commotion erupted in the hallway. Through the room's window, they saw Pastor Osei striding down the corridor, his face dark with purpose. He knows, Kwame said grimly. Someone told him Efua survived. The pastor burst into the room before security could stop him, his eyes wild with desperation. You couldn't leave well enough alone, could you, woman? Pastor, please. Akosia began, but he cut her off. You should have stayed dead. His voice rose to a shout. I was doing God's work, cleansing this community of your evil influence. By trying to kill me? By stealing children? Akosia stood her ground despite her fear. By any means necessary. He pulled something from his robes. Not a gun, but a syringe filled with clear liquid. And now I'll finish what I started. But he'd underestimated the family he'd torn apart. Kwame tackled him from behind, while Akosia grabbed the syringe. In the struggle, the pastor's mask of righteousness fell completely away, revealing the desperate criminal beneath. Hospital security arrived just as police sirens wailed outside. Samuel burst into the room, throwing his small arms around Mama Efua. I called them, he said proudly. I recorded everything he said on Mama's phone. As Pastor Osei was led away in handcuffs, ranting about divine justice, the three adults looked at each other with something approaching peace for the first time in 10 years. Can you forgive me? Efua asked, gripping both their hands. We all made mistakes, Akosia said quietly. The question is, what do we do now? The answer came from Samuel, whose wise 8-year-old eyes had seen too much, but still held hope. We become a family again, he said simply. A real one this time. 6 months later, the Asani family gathered for another ceremony. Not a wedding, but an adoption. Samuel's biological parents, found alive and grateful, had agreed to let him stay with the family that had protected him. Pastor Osei was serving 20 years for attempted murder, child trafficking, and fraud. Akosia and Kwame had remarried in a simple ceremony by the same river, where their lives had nearly ended. This time, Mama Efua stood as Akosia's witness, the two women united by shared trauma and mutual forgiveness. The revenge that had consumed 10 years of Akosia's life had transformed into something greater. Justice, healing, and the radical power of choosing love over hatred. As they watched Samuel play by the riverbank where it all began, Akosia reflected on the journey that brought them here. Do you ever regret not having your revenge? Kwame asked. She smiled, watching their son, for that's what Samuel had become, splash happily in the shallow water. I got something better, she said. I got my life back. And that's the end of this incredible story of betrayal, revenge, and redemption. If this story moved you, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more amazing tales. Share this video with someone who needs to hear about the power of forgiveness over revenge. What would you have done in a Kojua's situation? Let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you in the next story.